Hi, everyone. Caitlin McGrath here with the Be Her Village podcast. This podcast is all about the services that you can find on the Be Her Village registry. And it's also about pretty much anybody I come into contact with that I find interesting and want to talk to and want to introduce you to. And my guest today kind of falls into both of those categories because she happens to be a birth worker. And I also just met her and loved her and said, you need to come on my podcast. So you're welcome. So sitting here with me today is Lauren Oak. Lauren is a postpartum doula. She is a mother of 4 children, including twins. She is a grandmother. She's a super, super hot grandma, by the way. It's like grandma goals. I mean, it's like 35-year-old goals, but also grandma goals. Holy crap. She is, we don't have a job title, but she is just like all up in Twiniversity, and she's best friends with the founder, and she does all kinds of work with Twiniversity and helping new moms learn about twins. So we're going to talk about twins today for sure. She's a former foster care worker and now postpartum doula, and she was trained through Long Island Doula Association, and that's where we connected. And thank you so much for coming on my podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's like, so let me just, so everybody has like the context that I have right now. I just logged on and I said, oh, hey, Lauren, I haven't put on makeup. It's been a really busy morning. And she said, I just got home from doing it overnight. I'm like, oh, you sure you want to do this right now? She's like, yeah, I have a whole day planned. I'll sleep, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Is like,
yeah, basically, that's my motto.
You are just a bundle of energy, and it's kind of incredible. The caffeine. Caffeine. I don't know. I drink a lot of caffeine, and I sat with you in the coffee shop, and just you talked, and I just kept looking over at Janelle, who was in the meeting, and I was like, I feel lazy, and I'm not lazy. I have 3 kids, and I'm running a business, and I'm doing it, and it's like, but somehow Lauren is just doing it all.
I think if I stopped having things to do, I'd probably just die. So I always have to have something to do.
Yes, I find that too. The more I have, the more productive I am. So did you hear that, or did I freeze?
You froze a little bit, but that's all right.
Okay, we're going to work through the frozens. It's like Elsa in here.
Let it go.
So let's start with, do you want to talk about twins? Do you want to talk about foster care? You want to talk about...
You have questions for me?
I do. I have questions about all of it.
Okay, ask some questions.
Okay, this is the question I really want to know. Let's go off list. I want to know what the feeling was like when you found out you were having twins. What was that moment like?
I just got chills. Well, we had gone through fertility treatment, so we had an inkling that there was a possibility. We went through 1 round of IUI, which is just insemination, intrauterine insemination, and so we went for the round, and then we went back, I want to say 2 or 3 weeks later. Like, I tested positive that I was pregnant, and they said, come in for an ultrasound. So I went in with my husband, and he was like very like not comfortable in a medical surrounding. And so he sat like off in the corner, and they did the sonogram, and, the tech was like, oh, there's 2. And my husband like jumped out of his seat and ran over and like grabbed the monitor and was like, no, like, you knew this was a possibility. Like, we had like a 75% chance of having multiples.
Oh, wow. That's a high chance.
Yeah, I was on Clomid, and then they gave me a shot of something I had to give myself in the stomach. And it was just, they were like, basically, you're going to have twins. I kind of knew it. Like, I went in saying, please, let's not have the octuplets. I was thankful that we were going to have like 8, I was like,
let's not be on the news.
Not be on the news. I don't really want a reality show. So I was like, okay, but I was also like in shock. Like, I just didn't say anything. I was just like, okay. And it really took a little while for it to sink in. And my husband and I had met there. So we drove separately home. And I remember being like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Because we were living with my dad at the time in a 3-bedroom house, and I had an older daughter. We didn't have space. Like, I was in grad school.
Oh my
Like,
goodness.
what am I going to do? Am I going to finish grad school? Am I going to be able to work again? There were a lot of different things that we had to figure out. So we
So it
figured
was
it.
overwhelming.
It was super overwhelming. And I was like, how are we going to afford them? Where are they going to sleep? What, how am I going to do this?
Right.
Yeah.
So what comes next at that point? And I guess part of what I want to ask about is like what existed out there for someone who just found out they were having twins.
Froze again.
Oh
You froze.
no. I know my internet connection is unstable. All
No,
right. Sorry about that.
no, that's okay.
Can you see me now? Okay, good.
See you. Yeah.
Okay. So what was out there? First of all, how long ago was this?
This was I got pregnant in July of 2005 and they were born in February 2006.
So what type of resources were out there for you as a twin mom?
None. The only thing that I utilized was the Suffolk County Mothers of Twins Club.
Oh, that's cool.
Support network that I became very active in. They actually probably saved my sanity some days. I didn't join though until the twins were 3 months old because I didn't know about it. I was in a bagel shop with them and this woman came up to me and she gave me a little business card and she said, "Oh, I'm a mom of twins. You might want to join." And I did join. It was like $32 for the year for the membership. And I got this newsletter every month mailed to me before there was like email newsletters. And I would read it and say, "Oh, I want to go to this." They had monthly meetings at night, but my husband was working at night. I had no one to watch the twins. And I was like, "I really want to go. It sounds fun." Like they would have speakers and they'd do crafts and they'd just have coffee and chit chat. And finally, when the twins were, I don't know, like 8 or 9 months old, I took them with me and went to the club for the first time on a Tuesday night in Bohemia.
Wow.
And they were so sweet. The women were like, "Here, I'll hold a baby. You get a cup of coffee and relax." And they were just so nice. And then I met like 2 women that I'm still friends with that night who had twins the same age. And the next month I got my neighbor to watch the twins and I went by myself. And like, I don't think I missed a meeting for months.
It sounds like that connection was important.
Yes,
that feeling.
Camaraderie. Like,
yes. It really part of, I think, the struggle that women are having these days, and I don't see it getting better. And this is part of where things like Be Her Village and all the different in-person groups is like there's this sense on social media that you're connected and that you're getting support, but there is literally nothing like being in a room with a woman. This is why me and you met in person, because there's like this energy exchange and there's this feeling and there's this warmth and this empathy and there's something, at least for me, and I feel like I get the same sense from you, there's like this thing, even on Zoom, we're not having it now, like there's this thing that happens when I'm in a room with somebody where like they fill me up, and I think I fill them up, and there's like excitement and like a spark and energy that's happening, and there's creation, and it's so cool. And for new moms especially, who, I'd love to talk about this, like new moms get kind of thrown into this. Did you lose me again? Oh no. We'll have to piece this together and make one long podcast. They have they're kind of isolated, like they can't, like even if you have existing friends, once you become a mom, your needs are just so new and different and intense. And it's just, there's something about being in a room and getting mom friends. Yes. And I would imagine that's even more heightened for somebody with twins.
Well, and I think it's really hard for mothers of twins because a lot of their friends have single babies. So it's hard because they see their friends who have single babies struggling, but maybe not as much. It is double the work easily, trying to feed 2 babies or trying to get 2 babies to sleep or any of that. Just getting out of the house with 2 babies.
Yeah. I don't have multiples, but I have 3 kids and I try really hard to like be empathetic, but as a mom of 3, and they were really small, I had 3 kids in under 4 years. As a mom of 3 really small kids, like I would look at a mom of 1 and be like, is that even hard? Which I I know it's hard. I know it's hard because
at the moment it's so hard.
it's hard because when I had my one kid, I was drowning. I was drowning. So I know it's hard, but there's definitely this like little thing in my head. I'm like, really? You only have the one? Come on. Like I'm drowning now and I'm holding two more kids. But
Yes.
it's what it really comes down to for me, and this is where I like try to put that aside, although I am admitting that thought comes sometimes, is that it's hard for everybody. And like if I've learned one thing in this whole parenting experience, it's that like everybody is doing the very best that they can, and it's literally close to impossible for everybody. Like
Yeah,
it's really
everybody's
hard.
struggling. Everybody's struggling.
Everybody is struggling. And I don't say that, just to clarify, like, and I know you know this, I'm not saying that to scare pregnant people who are
Yeah,
listening.
no.
But it's more just if you find yourself struggling, we're all
Yes.
struggling. We all look okay. Like, look at us. We're on a podcast. We're in business. We're doing things. Yeah, I feel like we get so many accolades. It's like, oh no. We are
Yeah.
struggling.
Yes.
When we get off this podcast, we're
At
struggling.
3 p.m. when I'm in bed because I haven't slept in the day. And
Right.
to make dinner. Like I was getting text last night from one of my twins saying, "You didn't make dinner." I was like, "Well, I needed to nap before I got on a train to go into Manhattan to work for the night."
Yeah. The
So
pressure of feeding children every 3 hours for the rest of what feels like the rest of my life is like, it's intense. I feel like I could go all day without eating. And they're like, every 3 hours, I'm hungry.
I'm hungry. Do I have a
Okay.
snack? I don't want that for dinner. Yeah.
It has to be cooked and organic, and none of them ever want the same things. And like, oh my goodness.
They all want something different.
Yes, always. Okay, awesome. I love this. I want to ask you a little bit about, let's see, let's stick with the twin thing. So let's talk about Twiniversity, because as soon as we met in person, you just started telling me about this amazing resource. So I think if we have listeners that are twin moms or maybe are going through fertility treatments and are being told similar things as you, how did Twiniversity come into your life, and what does that look like, and what does it do?
Okay, well, Twiniversity is actually the #1 online resource for parents of multiples.
Awesome.
So it's not just twins. There are triplet stuff. There's quadruplet info, but it's mostly twin stuff. The founder is Natalie Diaz, who is a dear friend of mine who I met at a Mother of Twins Club convention. We just hit it up off the way you and I did. Like we just sat down and we're like, hey, hadn't talked endlessly.
Yeah.
We became really good friends. And over the years, I've done everything. I was the special projects manager. I wrote articles on super moms. Like I found moms of twins and would write articles on them. I did editing for many years. I would go on vacation and then write like a review on it for them. They would be
I
saying,
was listening to your podcast, and you did something from a trunk of a car at a car show. What?
Yes, I go to the New York City car show and go and report on what kind of cars would be great for parents of multiples. And they had me like in trunks, literally, like this trunk big enough for your stroller.
Are you like about stroller sized?
Because are you going to be able to put your stroller and your groceries in here?
Oh my goodness. Asking the important questions.
Yeah. So like, I don't know what else. Like I go to Woodlock Pines Lodge and spend the weekend with a bunch of other mommy bloggers and report back to how it would be for parents of twins.
That's great. It sounds like a really fun job.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't been really doing much of it right now because
Yeah.
I've been concentrating on my postpartum doula practice and everything.
Okay.
So, but every once in a while, they'll ask, to look things over on the website. We'll do surveys and, they'll take a look at this and see if there's any problems before we post it. Or
So moms of twins can log on. Is it like a community? Are there chat boards?
Well, it's a website,
Okay.
but then there's also like a Facebook page and an Instagram page, and we do Twitter stuff. And like if moms have questions about anything, you can just message them on Facebook and they can either post it to the whole community or they can be linked into like an article that might there's like over 100 writers. We post a few articles every week, and you can just go on the website and like search breastfeeding twins, or, splitting twins up in school. There's so many articles, thousands and thousands of articles on anything
Wow.
from pregnancy to like college, basically.
That is so valuable, I would imagine. See, this is the part of like the internet and technology age that's working for moms, is that instead of like having to know somebody, everything is in one spot. And it sounds like anybody who's pregnant with twins should go to Twiniversity.
And there's stroller reviews. There's also a YouTube channel. There's like,
oh wow,
there's all sorts of things. Like you can check out like different bottles. There's like lists of things, like things you need for when you're breastfeeding, for when you're pumping, for just getting things to put in your diaper bag.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Things about postpartum depression, things about, anything. There's so much valuable information.
That's great. So whoever's listening, go to Twiniversity, check them out. Switching gears a little bit, I have one question. I want to talk about postpartum doula stuff, but I have a question first for you. This is really just my own curiosity, although maybe it'll lead somewhere. What did you find the challenges? And I don't know if this is like a fair question, because I think you were probably in different life stages, but what was the difference in bringing home a singleton and bringing home twins? Like what is the difference there in terms of workload, in terms of overwhelm and postpartum issues?
Okay. Well, my twins were born at 32 weeks, so they were premature. Many twins are premature, so they're smaller. They have NICU time. Not all do. Some, the likelihood that you're going to have a C-section is probably higher when you have twins versus a singleton. I mean, I had a midwife, all natural delivery. I was young, but I popped back pretty easily. But I was a single mom, so that in itself was exhausting. My mom helped me. She stayed up with me at night and helped me get through.
Thank God for moms.
Oh my God, thank God. I mean, I don't know what I would have done without her.
Yeah.
And then when I had the twins, I had no one. My mom had passed away. My mother-in-law was working. It was me and my husband looking at each other like, what are we going to do with these two babies? And they were on a schedule where, because they were so small, they had to eat every 3 hours. Like I couldn't let them go. I had to feed them. I had alarm clocks going off in the middle of the night. It was exhausting because they were so little. They had to eat.
Right. It wasn't like a trust the baby thing. It's like they needed weight on them.
They had to eat for 2 months straight. Like I couldn't go, like the first month I took them back to the doctor and he was like, they need to gain a little more weight. Keep going. I was like, oh no, so tired. And then when I had my fourth, my husband and I laughed. We're like, it's like we don't even have a baby.
That's really funny.
We're like, baby? There's a baby here? And she wasn't the one that was hard. Kids that really exhausted me in that postpartum time. Yes.
I'm sorry. Can you say that again? Because you froze a little bit. That it was that you had a singleton and it wasn't that it was hard. Maybe it was that it
wasn't that she was hard.
Okay.
It was that the older children were the difficult kids. I had a 15-year-old at the time who had lots of teenage angst and hated the world. And then I had these 2 3-year-olds who were like wanting to run all over the place and draw on the walls and just be crazy. So luckily my youngest, it was a pretty chill baby. She slept really well. She was pretty low maintenance. If she was colicky and high maintenance, you might have had to visit me at the psych ward. I don't know.
It almost sounds, my best friend just had a third baby and I feel like I'm hearing a similar thing. Like this baby's so good. Like she just like literally
they have to be good.
Like they have to be good. Cause I always like they have to be good. Cause otherwise I'd eat them like just to end.
Like they're not going to survive.
Like you have to be good to just get through this family. And they also, I find anyway, like subsequent babies after the first are just like calmer because
you're calmer.
Because that's a good point. I didn't think of that. That was not what I was going to say.
My moms are so nervous and they're so tight. And it's like, relax, the baby's feet off of you. You can, you know,
Yes.
and then the second time around, they're like, oh yeah, we don't have to do it. You know, there's so much
Yeah.
laid back, I
And
think.
I think that they're just like exposed to so much more too. Like with the first baby, it's like when he's napping, it's like everyone be quiet, nobody talk, you know. And with the second, it's like
Vacuum around this one.
right. You could put like now we can't wake them up. Like they transfer so easily. We can't
Yep.
even wake them up because
Yep.
they're such good sleepers because they've never had a quiet experience, I think,
Yep.
in their entire life because our house is just wild, you know.
Exactly. You know.
So let's talk about that a little bit then. Let's get into postpartum doula support. What does that look like? And also, what is the impact of it? Right? So you're
Okay.
saying like moms are less nervous, or like, oh, I'm thinking as you're saying, you know, I had the twins and we're up every 3 hours. I'm like, God, it would have been so nice. I don't even know if you knew what a postpartum doula
No,
was
I
back when
didn't.
you had the twins.
No, I didn't. I absolutely didn't. And I probably would have sold my kidney if I could find someone. I was like so exhausted. I was so exhausted. Like I didn't get more than like maybe 90 minutes of solid sleep at a time because my husband was working 2 jobs. So during the week, I took control of doing it all. So I would feed one baby and it would take a half hour. I'd feed the next baby. It would take another half hour.
Were you breastfeeding? Do you mind if I ask breastfeeding or formula?
I would sleep and then get up again. It was just exhausting.
Were you breastfeeding, bottle
So
feeding,
I was
formula feeding?
bottle feeding.
Bottle feeding formula.
Yes.
And it still took
It's
a full
still,
hour.
yes.
Oh my goodness. That sounds
So,
very difficult.
and I didn't want to like put them in it. They were so little, they couldn't really go in like a baby Bjorn bouncy seat or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to hold one at a time and feed them because they were so little. They were 4,
Right.
3, and 4, 6 when they were born.
Oh my
So they were
goodness.
real tiny.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you come from being a mom of twins that was struggling on her own to becoming now a postpartum doula? How did you find out about postpartum doulas? What made you come into that work, and what do you actually do?
Okay, well, I was trying to find something to do where I was actually doing something. You know, I was working for Twiniversity. I did a lot of stuff where I was sitting on my couch, reading stuff, typing, and that kind of phased out a little. And so I had over the summer, I had met someone who was a birth doula, and she gave me the information on how to become a doula in general. So I trained to be a birth doula first, and then I trained to be a postpartum doula. And um, basically, I've always been the one, like my girlfriends had babies, and when my oldest was 3, I had a girlfriend who had a 1-year-old and then had a newborn, and her husband was a jerk. They're divorced at this point, but her husband was like, I'm going skiing for 4 days, and totally left her with a newborn and this 1-year-old.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I packed up my 3-year-old and moved in with her for the 4 days.
Wow.
And we always laugh now because like my daughter's married and has a baby, and her son's now married, and we always joke like, remember those 4 days I moved in with you? It was, and we all slept in one bed with her
Oh,
dog. It was like we had her 1-year-old, my 3-year-old, the dog, we had the baby in the bassinet, and the 2 of us all in one bed.
and you just got through it together. Oh, you froze. Oh no.
So, and then my daughter had her baby and I helped her. So it's just, I guess it's just in me to be like a helper.
Mm,
So, you know, and now I work with moms with single babies and twins, and every scenario is a little different. I tell them they're the boss. We're going to do it their way, whatever they want to do. And, so every situation is a little different. You know, I worked with a twin mom last night, and she's having a lot of difficulty with her breast milk supply. She's met with lactation consultant. The babies are really small and they can't even really latch well. So
mm.
she's pumping and she's still not producing. So it's a lot of getting her through the night, of getting her through her pumps, feeding the babies, getting her to rest.
It sounds like you're just as much an emotional support for the
Yeah.
mother. Like when I hear you say it's about getting her through her pumps, it sounds like you have to like talk with her
Yes,
and
because she was
support
like
her.
breaking down last night. Like she
Yeah,
could
I felt the scene.
failure. She
Yeah.
and I'm like, your body is only made to feed one baby. Feeding 2 is astronomical to ask.
Mhm.
So she's getting there, but she's on the verge of wanting to quit, but she's like, I'm going to give it another week. So I'll be back there tomorrow night with her to see where we go. And
yeah. So tell me a little bit about like, what is a typical, if there is such a thing, what does a typical shift look like for a
okay.
postpartum doula? Let's talk about overnight shifts. So you're
Okay,
coming because
overnight shifts. My
yeah.
basic overnight shift is 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Okay.
I'll show up. Mom or dad will either be up or not, so they'll be there waiting, ready to relax.
Yeah.
Some moms want me to bottle feed and they want to sleep. Other moms, like last night, they get up every 3 hours and I'm there with them. I get the baby, if they're breastfeeding, I will get the babies changed into a clean diaper and ready to go. The second mom gets up, I'll either bring the babies to her or we'll meet in the living room or wherever. I'll get the other baby latched. I'll get her a snack, a drink. We'll do a little chit-chatting, a little quiet time. I'll straighten up. I'll empty the dishwasher. I'll fold the laundry. I'll wipe the counters down. If she's bottle feeding, I get the bottles ready. If she's pumping, I make sure all the pump parts are clean.
That's amazing.
Whatever she needs,
yeah.
maybe a little snack, oatmeal, whatever.
So, I mean, to me, I just want to, postpartum doulas sound like something I could use right now. I'm 4 years postpartum next month. It sounds like you're just like this little fairy godmother that takes care of everything that the mother would normally be doing, except that she's caring for the little one.
Yes.
So that's incredible. And I don't know that until you're in that newborn phase, if you know how necessary it is. Like, it doesn't sound like, as someone who's been through 3 postpartum times, I'm hearing you say all the things you're doing. I'm like, oh God, that sounds so nice. But I would imagine if I was pregnant and listening to that, I would go, I can fold the laundry. Like, isn't the baby going to sleep? What, like, how hard is it to do that? And it's like, oh, no. It's all you do.
And I get a lot of calls from people who have like 2-week-old babies and they're like, can you come? Or even the family that I worked with last night, when I interviewed them back in November before they had the babies, they were like, we think we only want you during the day. And I was like, okay, absolutely, no problem. I said, but just be open to nights. And they were in the hospital and they were like, can you come at night? Just come a little early. So I actually go a little earlier. I go at 8:45 and I stay a little later. I stay until about 6:45.
Oh, wow.
So with them, because they want that, like, if I was just going to leave at 6, she would just be pumping and feed. Like, I get her through that first morning and I get the baby settled down and I wash everything up and I send her to bed. I get the babies swaddled and back in their cribs and she goes back to sleep.
That is a beautiful thing.
So she and her husband are very happy.
I would imagine. So what does that look like in terms of like, how long do you typically stay with the family?
Well, that's another thing. It's totally different for every family.
Okay.
Some families want me for, 2 or 3 weeks. Some families want like months. And I'm flexible, like I contracted with this family for 3 weeks, but I already know. I already have my schedule, like the whole month of March, they're going to have me coming and going. And I'm pretty flexible with the amount of days. Like next week, her mom's coming into town. So I said, if you don't want me to come, that's fine. I said, but if you just want one night, I can do that too. And she was like, okay, I'll talk to going back to work. And she said, maybe you can come a third night. Instead of 2 nights, you can come 3 nights. So I was like, all right, I'm pretty flexible with it. And then I watch my grandson and a few other kids on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I can't do Monday nights and Wednesday nights. And they know that.
Yeah.
So I lay that all
out. So what about baby nurses? Because I think baby nurses, at least for me, before I didn't know what a postpartum doula was until my doula mentioned it. Before I was ever a doula, she mentioned it and I said, what is that? I had never heard of it, but baby nurses I've heard of. So if you don't mind, could you explain, is it the same thing, just a different title?
I think it's a little different.
Okay.
From my knowledge, they just deal with like the babies and they don't sit up and do breastfeeding support. They don't fold the family's laundry. They're not emptying the dishwasher. They're not making mom a meal. It's
Mm.
more of people who are strictly bottle feeding and want to just sleep, which I do also. I can do that as well. But 9 times out of 10, mom is breastfeeding or they want me to do a little extra. And sometimes I do like basic childcare for their older children,
Mm.
like getting them settled for the night as well.
Right. And it sounds like a big part of what postpartum doulas do. And I don't know, I haven't actually spoken to a baby nurse. I probably
Mhm.
should speak to a baby
Yeah.
nurse. But every postpartum doula is like talking about how they're really in tune with the mother. So like the baby
Yes.
nurse, it's in the name, it's baby. And half
Yeah.
of them aren't even nurses. They're just people
No,
that
they're just
watch.
people. Yeah.
Right.
They're not nurses
Right.
and they're not as educated from what I know, but that's just from what I know.
Right. Well, we'll have to get one on this
Yeah, yeah.
podcast, so we'll
Yep.
figure it out.
Someone.
But I think it's a good, distinction to understand that postpartum doulas are there for the whole family, for the mother, for the partners, and that you guys are there for the emotional support too. It's not just baby care. It's like,
Yes. And it's like I got a text yesterday from a mom who I haven't worked with in 2 months, and she is going away for work for a week, and she's worried that the babies aren't going to relatch. So we're trying to work on that with her. She's like, I breastfeed them 4 times a day now. I'm going to be gone for a week. What's going to happen when I come back?
mhm,
So I'm trying to get her through that, like
right,
all the possible scenarios. So I don't know if they're going to relatch or not, and
right.
if they do, great. And if they don't, let's be prepared for that.
Absolutely. I spoke to Debbie Rotuno, and
Mhm.
she's the trainer, I believe, for
Yeah.
the Long Island Doula Association training. And she said, I asked her what a typical shift looks like, and she said it really depends. Sometimes it's like laundry and cleaning and meals, and sometimes she said there's this one client, and it's in Long Beach, and I just go with her for a walk
Mhm.
with the baby, and we
Yep.
sit on a bench and we talk for 3 hours, and
Yep.
then we go back. And she's like, and it's just the woman, and I am somebody who needs a lot of stimulation, a lot of conversation, a lot of connection. We were just talking about that. I really require, I'm probably an extrovert, I don't know, like I require a
No,
lot of
me too. I like to talk and
interaction. Yeah. So I felt isolated. I felt like my brain was turning into mush when I was home with my babies. I loved being a mother. I still love being a
yes,
mother, but
it
it's
is
like,
very isolating. It's lonely.
it's
No
so
one tells
lonely.
you that. It's so lonely.
It absolutely is. So I could see how having a postpartum doula there, it's not a long-term solution. You still have to make
No,
mom friends. You
and
still
I
have to get
tell
out.
everybody that. I said, "I'm not here forever. I'm temporary.
Hmm.
Like, I'm gonna make it so that you don't need me anymore."
Right. Absolutely. It's very important. Um,
Mm.
so what is the cost of a postpartum doula? What are the
Well,
rates looking
it
like?
depends on location and how many babies you and time of like, nights are more expensive than days.
Okay.
Um, I charge for daytime. I wouldn't charge any less than $25 an hour right now. In the city, it would be I charge $40 an hour. Um, and overnights on Long Island, I do 35 to 40. If it's twins, I'll do 40 an hour at night. And in the city, it's anywhere from 50 to 60 at night.
Okay, so I think part of what I'm trying to get a feel for are for the people who are listening to this who are thinking about like a Be Her Village registry and adding services. Like how much, how much would a typical doula package cost? Is it like $1,000, $2,000? Like
Well,
what do people typically sign up for?
well, I usually have people doing 2 overnights. Like if it's Long Island, 2 overnights a week at $35. I think it's 285 a night times 2. I can't do math right now.
Me neither. I'm like, wait, let me get my calculator.
Hold
Really?
on, let's see. Oh, goodness. Let's see. Uh,
Let's do the math, ladies. So we
35,
don't have to, you don't have
80.
to do it.
Oh,
So
280. 280.
280. So
280.
560.
560 a week for 2 full nights.
Okay.
And then sometimes they want me to come for like 3 hours on a random day just to get like to take a nap, to take a shower, to
Mhm.
whatever, to sit and chit chat.
Right. So this is like an investment in their postpartum care And
Yes.
this should be part of their postpartum plan,
Yeah.
right? And I think, everybody knows about birth plans, but I don't think people are making postpartum plans. And this is why I'm very happy to have you on. You're frozen.
Oh,
Oh
you need
no.
those too.
Okay, I know. I'm like, I think we just both froze. So postpartum care plans, this is part of what Be Her Village is about educating about why we need them, and then
Yes.
also like how to get them. So you're saying like for 1 week of support, it's over $500.
Yes.
Part of what we're going to be doing on this registry is it's going to be broken down into bite-sized chunks. So you can
Yes.
register for 2 or 3 weeks. Let's say you get $1,500 worth of postpartum services, which is honest. I have to just say, like, I know those numbers might sound big. It is invaluable
It's
to
totally
the
invaluable.
experience, to how we shift into motherhood, to how we find our confidence and our calm and our ability and our feelings of worthiness and value, and how we get sleep. Like, just getting sleep changes everything.
Everything.
Like, a nap
Everything.
can change your entire life when you
Oh,
have a
yeah.
2-week-old.
Oh, yeah. But then
Yeah.
some moms don't want night help. Like, they don't necessarily need it. Like, if
Mhm.
they're just one baby in the breastfeeding, they may not want another person there,
Mhm.
where they might want just the daytime.
And that daytime help is
And so for 3 hours, for $75, I can come in
mhm.
1 or 2 days a week and give you a break.
Oh my God.
Fold your laundry,
That
go
sounds
down to
so
the
nice.
basement, throw the laundry in, switch it around,
Yeah.
wipe down the counters. You want me to walk your dog around the block? I can do that, or
Right.
whatever. Play with your 3-year-old.
Yeah.
The baby sleeps and you take a shower. Yeah.
Right. This is like what basically used to exist, right? Like, we would have women
Yes.
doing chores together. We would have women coming together, cooking the meals, preparing, caring for everybody's kids. My neighbors and I joke because we get together a lot. Like, there's a bunch of neighbors that hang
Mhm.
out together. And not that I'm yelling, but I'm like, I find myself like reprimanding kids that aren't my own. But there's this like talked about and untalked about agreement between all of us that like, whatever kid is closest to you, that's who you like are in charge of. There's this camaraderie and like coming together, and all the adults are in this together, and it makes it so much easier instead of having to
Yeah.
watch your kid.
Yes.
So that's what I feel like with this postpartum doula work. Like, I'm hearing this as, well, that's what used to exist. And like,
Yeah.
some people have that. Some people have mothers and grandmothers that are coming and doing all of that. But I don't know, most of us are either not close to our families emotionally or location wise, or they're
Yeah.
working. Like, my mom is working. My mother-in-law is working full time. They're not doing overnights at my house. They're
Yeah.
it's just they're not that full-time type of support that we can
And
rely
some
on.
some grandmas and moms aren't like, they don't want to do that. They want to
Yeah.
come over and see the baby
Hmm.
and not help.
Yes.
So
I have to say the other thing too, Janelle on my team texted me like, what do we say to this question? And it was like something about like, my mom's coming. Why would I need a postpartum doula? And I said, it was just a text, like, was not well thought out, but I just was like, well, what you really say to that is postpartum doulas don't judge you.
they don't judge you, and you can say whatever you want. Like, I don't want it this way, and I'll listen to you.
Right. There's not like the weight.
I'll be like, no, we need to do it this way. And sometimes there's a clash between the mom and the grandma and how things should be done.
And there's like, what I've seen in my doula work is that grandmothers or mother-in-laws, the older women, can feel threatened by the choices that their daughters and daughters-in-law
Yes.
make, like, as if
Yes.
they make a different choice, then that's an attack on them, even though it's not at all. But it's like this intergenerational,
Yes.
it gets layered, and it gets fraught. And a postpartum doula, it is so nice to be able to just hire someone and be taken care of, and like, without guilt, without clash, without making all your own choices. And like, as you're talking about, it's like formula feeding, breastfeeding, working moms, not working moms, like whoever, it doesn't matter. There's not one way of parenting, and there's not one type of parent that uses postpartum doulas. It sounds like everybody. Mom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great. That's really great. Okay. Let's see. So before we wrap up, my question for you is, what if you had one piece of advice and it doesn't have to be about postpartum doula work, but what would your one piece of advice be for pregnant people who are listening to this podcast?
Expect the unexpected. Like, you have this vision of what it's going to be like, what your baby's going to be like, what your baby's going to look like, and it most likely it's not going to be that way. So don't be surprised when things are completely different. Like, you may think it's going to be the worst thing on earth. Oh my God, it's going to be horrible. And it might be easier than you think, or vice versa. And accept help, even if it is just from your mom. If you really can't afford, accept all the help.
Well, they should be able to afford it. Make their Be Her Village registry. That's the whole idea.
And
is that your friends and family can buy it for you.
Like,
but I love that.
List of things you need to get done and get them get your doula to do them.
Yep. Yes, I love that. Accept help. That could be a whole other hour-long podcast about accepting help.
Don't say no to help.
That's not easy for everybody.
It isn't. Oh no, I can. I know a lot of people say, no, I can do it. Why not accept the help? Why not?
Right. Well, that's part of, sorry, we were wrapping up, but part of this Be Her Village idea is like, we're not supposed to be doing this alone.
No.
At all. And there's this like American way right now where we all sit in our little boxes and we, post great pictures on our social media and we cry when we're done posting them, and we feel alone and we feel lonely and we feel scared and we feel tired. And there's a sense of like, we can't ask for help because it's not being offered. First of all, most family members are coming over and holding babies. People aren't bringing, they might bring food like once, but they're not, like there's not a built-in support
continuous
system.
It's like, here's a meal and I'll see you in 3 weeks.
Exactly. And in 6 weeks of your unpaid maternity leave, I hope your body is back, quote unquote back. Okay. Yeah. And that you're back to work, breastfeeding, pumping, working. Like you have to do everything. And there's a sense that we have to do it on our own. And that's part of what Be Her Village is about. It's like, you don't have to do it on your own. Look at all these wonderful people. I wish I knew what a postpartum doula was. I wish I knew you. Although when I was having babies, I don't know if you knew what a postpartum doula was.
Yeah, I don't know.
So let's spread the word about postpartum doulas and get more women getting postpartum doulas as gifts, because what is a better gift than like someone folding your laundry and feeding you a meal and taking care of your baby
and talking to you.
Up. Yes. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for the work that you do. And thank you so much for sitting down with us after your overnight shift. Go get some rest, Lauren.
Bye.
Sounds good. Thank you. Bye.
Take care.